For Congressman Ron Paul, we go next to Athens, Georgia. Paula, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi. I appreciate hearing from someone like you who is a thinking politician instead of a knee-jerk politician. I appreciate that. And I would like to know how you feel about the AFL-CIO trying to unionize the Red Cross. And after you finish talking about that, I would like to know how you feel about raising the minimum wage because of all the workers in the daycare centers and the home health care centers who are making sometimes $5 and $6 an hour.
First, on the AFL-CIO, I didn't know they were trying to unionize the Red Cross. Unions in a free society have a perfect right to unionize, negotiate, organize, do whatever. I'm opposed to regulating unions from the federal level. If they have funds, they should be able to spend them like I can spend my own funds. So I don't like regulating unions, but there should be no compulsion. They should gain no authority from the federal government. They can't force themselves on anybody. So if the American Red Cross says, we don't want to negotiate with unions, they should have that right. All contracts should be voluntary, just as they are between individuals in a social sense. Most people recognize that can be voluntary. So I would say that this should be permitted, but they should have no authority. Same way with the minimum wage law. We can deal with that on contractual basis and voluntarism. That is that government should have nothing to say about the payment of a person you hire. And the economic argument is very strong. It usually hurts the very people you're trying to help. But minimum wages, the authority for establishing a minimum wage is the same authority that eventually, if you have high inflation, is that you freeze wages. So in a free society, you don't use force and intimidation to bring about changes that you think might be beneficial.
Baltimore, Liberal Line, good morning.
Good morning, Congressman. I know you're not a particular fan of government regulation, but I did have a question for you about the tracking system that's supposedly being built into the new Pentium processors that are shipping, I think, this month. Apparently there's some sort of code built into them that can be detected by let's say, commerce sites that you visit, and ideally that would be used to ensure the security of your transactions, but a lot of people have concerns that it's going to be used to track your movements.
Was it put into the Pentium chip by choice, or was it done because government told them they had to?
I think Intel put it in because they decided to, but the furor is that you can't really turn it off. And while there are a few alternatives to the Intel processor, it's sort of built into a lot of machines. Yeah. And I don't know that too many people have the savvy to deal with disabling it properly.
Right. Now, if they did it as a response from pressure from government, that would be very bad. But if it's in there because they decided to do it, the consumer has an obligation to know something about it. So, but I think that the computer system and government coercion is a very dangerous thing. Government now is prohibiting the ability to scramble your messages and to develop privacy. So there is a bill in Congress to try to allow this technology to be developed and to be sold. And I think that is very important, that the market sorts this out, that not only can you maintain your privacy, you should not have to react to government's demand that for law enforcement purposes you have to do this because someday we might be able to find a criminal on the internet or something like that.
Our next call of the morning comes from Chesapeake, Virginia, on the Conservative Line. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Mr. Ron Paul.
Morning.
Glad to get a hold of you. I've contributed to your campaign whenever possible. I believe that you're going to be one of the few people able to understand me. I believe our nation has forgotten the roots of our nation. We started out with a different government called the Articles of Confederation. It was a very weak central government, and it was set up that way because the founders discovered that throughout history, governments have been the source of the greatest evil. We absolutely must go back to a limited government, and if that requires changing the Commerce Clause to read deregulate commerce between the states, then I think we have to do that. I don't know how likely that is in my lifetime, though.
Not likely, but if we interpreted the Commerce Clause as it was originally intended and as it was interpreted through the 19th century, it would be used for deregulation. That was the purpose, to break down the barriers. It was to make it a common market and have a common currency. But since I think it was about 1895 that court rules and the movement towards centralized government has been such that they use the Interstate Commerce Clause to regulate just about everything and anything. It certainly needs clarification or reasserting of the original Constitution.
On politics, once again, has Jesse Ventura's success changed the prospect for third-party candidates in this country?
I hope so, but I'm not so sure, because I think most independent thinking people who would like to see more participation in the electoral process were delighted, with Jesse Ventura. The big problem is all the rules and the laws are biased against anybody who doesn't conform. You either have to be in the Republican or Democratic Party, or you can't get very far because there's too many obstacles. Unless you're independently wealthy like a Ross Perot, he did better than the average libertarian might do, because libertarians don't have money, the third parties don't have money. But Jesse Ventura did not have to spend a lot of money, which was great, but he also had celebrity status. So, if you limit politics to celebrity status and a lot of money, and then come in with the worst thing to do to competition is to allow the major parties, which you're getting ready to do, write the laws and say, well, there's going to be a limitation on the money and the government's going to distribute the money. Matter of fact, that's about the only thing I strongly disagree with Jesse Ventura on. He says, you should have the government passing out the money. But that would be horrible. What you need is open up the competition, let people spend the money they want, and not put these obstacles like signature gathering that you have to get on the ballot. What you want is competition. You don't want to deliver it narrowly to the rich people. Or just think if we had this very limited amount of money given out by the government to run a campaign, third-party people might not get it, and then all of a sudden you would deliver this tremendous power to the media. Maybe what's reported in the newspaper, if I couldn't answer back what the newspaper said, I'd be handicapped. So all of a sudden, the media would have more control over our elections. But in general, I think he has done a lot of good. I think a lot of people are cheering him on.
Quick question related. USA Today has its lead story today that the presidential fund that we can check off on our taxes, is running low of contributions. It says here that they project that the fund will provide for only 40% or less of the eligible funds that candidates competing for their party's nomination will be entitled to receive in January of 2000. Is this fund one of those things that gets in the way of people getting into the system?
I think the fund is almost irrelevant. It's been able to match up because they get enough checkoffs to do it, but it's really just a slush fund in the general revenue fund. I think if they want to continue funding this, they'll just take it from someplace else. But I just think that, but that's good that it's going down. It just means that more people are getting disenchanted with this system. Most people aren't voting. And that's what was great about Jesse Ventura. They had almost twice as many people come out. We need more competition, and we need more ideas out there to excite people. But as long as it's wishy-washy stuff, people get disenchanted, and obviously they're getting disenchanted. They're not checking off the money. But I'm not too worried, and people who like that system shouldn't worry too much, because they'll find the money someplace. All of a sudden, the Republican and Democrat at their national conventions aren't going to be shortchanged. They'll have the money. I can assure them.
Linda, New Jersey is next for Ron Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, Congressman. I think you're doing a fantastic job. My question is about Kosovo. In Somalia, when our Rangers were sent in there, 18 died when they begged their UN commander for more ammunition, and it was denied. I was just wondering if our troops will be going to Kosovo under any kind of foreign command. And also a question, aside from the fact that the president is violating the Constitution because only Congress can declare war, and this to me is an act of war, isn't he also violating the Wars Power Act?
Yes, you're right. It's violating the Constitution. You're right. These troops are going to be put under foreign command. That's unconstitutional. This means that if he goes into war, he has assumed that our agreement with NATO was a more important document than the Constitution that says Congress should declare war. So I think all that is true.
Next is West Springfield, Massachusetts, Liberal Line.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I can see this is a very popular program because it took me so long to get on.
Well, thanks for your persistence. What's on your mind?
A couple of questions, Congressman. I have to agree with you when you mentioned that all the trust funds should be put aside and have it as a trust fund.
Right.
I agree on that. But when you're looking for a 10% tax cut across the board, that's going to create a bigger deficit. Who's paying for the tax cut?
Well, nobody ever pays for the tax cut. You never should talk about paying for a tax cut. Nobody pays for it. When you get a tax cut, all we're doing is allowing you to keep more of what is yours, and you have a right to. So this means we have to cut some spending. Why have we spent these $20 billion in Kosovo? I mean, that's not our obligation to police the world. So you could say, and what are we going to do? We're going to expand it. We're going to spend billions. In Bosnia we've spent the 20. We're going into Kosovo. We're bombing on a daily basis in the Persian Gulf. We're not achieving anything. We're solidifying the enemy, and we're hurting a lot of innocent people. So we endlessly spend these monies. We spend, $27 billion in foreign aid last year. I would say you deserve a tax cut a lot more than the Chinese deserve foreign aid from us. And that's what we should do. We should cut the spending, give the tax cut, set aside the Social Security. It's not nearly as complicated as I'd like to make you think.
Another story on the budget this morning is from the Washington Post. George Hager writes it, and here's the headline: GOP budget plan and the spending caps to collide, panel chairman warned. When were the spending caps put in place?
I guess that was, in 90, 94, 95, but in the budget resolution. But the spending caps aren't, this goes back to my previous answer. The spending caps aren't going to be honored. They're going to go over. There's no move in the Congress to cut spending. There's only one move in the Congress, that is to spend, because they've talked themselves into believing there's a lot of surpluses which don't exist. So the spending cuts aren't going to occur, and the caps are going to be blown, and the economy is going to turn down, and the revenues are going to go down, and we're going to have an entirely different picture in about 2 years from now. Absolutely different than what it is now. Before it was that the deficits that we're going to run to eternity, now the surpluses are going to run to eternity. That means the economists, and especially the government economists, really don't know what they're talking about, and they haven't been very good in projections. So this idea that they're going to have endless amounts of money and deciding, well, how are we going to spend it on tax cuts, and we're going to continue our foreign intervention, we're going to continue the foreign aid, and we're going to expand educational programs. That's all going reality is going to set in, and the deficits are going to go back up. There will be a recession.